Hi everyone. Ooh, that's a lot. Hey everybody. Hi, hello. What's up? How's y'all doing on today? I don't know why I'm wearing these. I do know I'm wearing these. I'm just not using them. So I hope everyone's doing well. I hope everyone is in high spirits. If you aren't, I hope things improve. And even if you are, I guess things can still improve, right? I hope you do better soon, regardless of how well you are. Good morning, evening, afternoon, whatever, whenever you come across this. Ouch. There we go. Oh my gosh, right? There we go. All right. So, I guess the tarot apocalypsis is taking a little bit of a backseat. And I'm going to pull another Threads of Fate Oracle card, the Rose Edition. And so what I'm going to do is, it seems like the non-ether aspected cards have 3 aspects. And so I'm going to pull a card. And then if it's 3 aspects, I'll pull 3 cards to see, to get a little bit more out of that aspect, I guess. And so I just got this deck, like literally opened it yesterday. So I had a dream last night. I had a few dreams last night that were interesting in nature. The last one this morning, it was like I was somewhere with my mom and my 2 younger brothers. So my mother was with her 3 children. And then I had another dream about my dad, which was separate and interesting. Um, but it was like we were somewhere and these little robot things broke out or something. And at first I didn't know they were there. I'm just like trying to evacuate the premises. And then I happened to come across them and I'm like, come on, y'all need to go. And my mama walking so slow. And apparently I don't want to cause a panic or a freak out. I'm just like, can you hurry up, please? And so we was going to this elevator and I guess we were gonna take a different way out because I was like, we'll go to the basement and then get out instead of going to like the main floor and then going out the front door or whatever. I don't know, secret passageways. And so of course, like I sort of know what's going down. Other people don't. In dreams sometimes it's like I'll see things in a dream. It's like if you watch a movie and it's like watching a movie but also being a character in the movie. So sometimes something will happen in another part, but I'll see it because it's my dream. And so even though my character in that dream isn't there to know what's going on, the character is me. I'm having a dream. So I'm like, we gotta go before things get like fall all the way apart, before it makes it its way over here. So I'm like rushing. And again, my mom is just going so slow. And so we get in the elevator. I hurry up and push the button for the basement. It closes before she gets in the elevator, but my 2 little brothers are in there with me. And I could hear her. She was like, because other people were coming or something like that. I don't know. I was just like, we got to hurry up and get out of here. But she wasn't on the elevator yet. So then we had to go back to that floor to get her. And I think I woke up before that happened, but I could still hear her like on the other side of the elevator door, even though it had started to descend. And it was such an interesting dream because usually in dreams, like my 2 little brothers, I'll protect in dreams all the time. My mom, not so much. Um, so I guess she was an element that I wasn't used to helping navigate or having to protect. And because she's my mother, instead of her being one of my younger brothers, then it's a reverse on that dynamic, right? And so maybe that's why It's like as I'm trying to like hurry and rush, my brothers are keeping pace with me, but she's not. Um, but also at the same time, like knowing my mother, if she's not panicking or freaking out, not that I usually do, but there probably is a reason to. I don't know. It was an interesting dream. Okay. Anyway, so let's come back over here. I've shuffled both the tarot and the oracle. I'm using the the journeyman edition again with the rose edition of this. The oracle cards, threads of fate. Okay, what's the card for today? The card for today. The card for today. Also, I woke up this morning and I think I'm going to pursue that. Well, after the webinar tomorrow about gene therapy for rare diseases, I think I'm going to pursue it. Um, so I am bracing myself for that. But hopefully, loss doesn't have to be my experience. So I'm going to hope it isn't. I'm going to know that that is how the current framework of reality is most of the time. Not most of the time, but sometimes. So I guess I'll brace myself for that potentiality, but I will be hoping that that doesn't happen. I mean, I was an RA in the partiest dorm on campus, and I didn't have a single alcohol incident until like November. I made it almost the whole semester. And one of the things that I forget about all the time is like the the cleaning of the body's natural response to um, get some things out of it when it's had too much. There was quite a bit of that. Quite a bit of that. That's something I forget about. But after Model Star, that was nothing. Okay. Sorry. Back to this. So yeah, there's some emails I need to send today. Some conversations that I need to start. I'm gonna keep going until a card comes out. This one turned up like this. I'm not gonna look at it. So I'll pull it. But it didn't fall out, and I just said fall out, so it wanted to be known. There we go. Well, it didn't fall out, but it turned over. Good enough. Interesting. Huh. Well, if this card is paradox, that would be funny. So the bottom of the deck is movement. Oh my gosh, these cards look gorgeous. Oops, maybe I should. Movement at the bottom of the deck. And the card that came out, the reason why I chuckled a little bit is because it's patience. Patience is the card that flipped over. So we got patience, but movement is at the bottom of the deck. Well, if they're not contrasting, then that's saying that like maybe there's a holding period that's about to come to an end, right? Um, but if that's not the case, then we're supposed to move and be patient at the same time. I don't know why this feels like. Ooh, it feels like tears that I haven't even begun to shed yet. But again, I'm just gonna hope that that doesn't happen. But I'm prepared to stand by my choice, right? Making a difference ain't always easy. So patience is probably earth. Movement is probably, I want to say air, but it could be fire. Why not? Patience is earth. 18, page 18. Movement is fire, page 62. See, I was tempted to say air because air is fluid, but movement is more action based. So I was like, oh, that's probably fiery. It's probably fire. You're my fire, my one. I don't know. Bear with me, y'all. So, patience. Before I get into it, there's lots of roots here. So, roots are a theme again. And this reminds me of the Tower card in the tarot deck, but there's a lot more growth. And then there's the tortoise shell feature. One, two, three, four. I think there's 13 or 20. I think there's 20. 3, 6, 9, 12. I can't count. It's either 13 or 20. No, it's 13 and then 20 around, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Or 21. Anyway, Mayan calendar energies because of the tortoise shell. Again, it like the roots that takes me back to that the ancestors in the other card. It's the energy of things that have been put in place and something that's been growing over quite the amount of time. Lifetimes, darling. So, turtle, chamomile, and petrified wood are the three things. I'm actually going to pull these first and then I'll read it. So, for the turtle, and y'all gonna have to come out like one or two cards. Oh, hey! It came out face down. Oh, and it's one card. For the chamomile. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm sorry. Usually I don't apologize, but I'm all over the place today. It's fine. This is my Mercury in my 12th house, shining in Pisces. If you can keep up, it takes us to some pretty interesting places sometimes. Chamomile. I actually have a chamomile tea. I have a sleepy time chamomile, but then I ended up getting another chamomile tea, and I think that one has lavender in it. Because the celestial seasonings chamomile, it's the bags don't have strings. And I'm like, what? It's just less convenient. And so I don't really use them. I've had a few of them. There we go. Here's chamomile. Chamomile's coming out with 2 cards. And then petrified wood. Petrified wood is interesting because it takes on the properties of stone, but it's wood. And wood is, I mean, you can build a house of stone, but wood is a little easier to work with. Both of them are kind of used for fire, right? The wood is the kindling, the stone strikes the tinder and creates a spark. And so it's an energy of something that it's like an auxiliary energy, but then the boundary or the veil weakens and ripples enough for it to actually become the other thing. Now, when it becomes the other thing, I don't know if it does both. I mean, I'm assuming petrified woods ain't just starting fires. Just like spontaneous. I'm assuming they don't spontaneously combust. But I don't know if there will be an energy of that happening, especially after talking about divine feminine and divine masculine energies coming together to be a space of just like pure divine energy. I guess it didn't come out. It felt like something slid out, but it didn't. So, petrified wood. What do you have for me? Something telling. Please assist us. Assist us. I'm gonna keep going until something flips over or falls out. What just popped into my mind? Well, okay, here's a. I told y'all my Mercury and Pisces in the 12th house was acting up today. So it's cold in my room. And then the song, like, It's So Cold, popped into my mind. And then what popped into my mind is, It's so cold, like somebody's about to pass. And it was like younger female child. And then a father that holds a piece of something. It's a crystal, petrified wood. But it's like it keeps a piece of her soul or something, or it holds her soul or something. And then there's a show that I've seen about two brothers, and they're wandering through just some sinks. Don't worry about it. They're wandering through a wood, and there's a person with a lantern who's scary. There's a beast, and um, he has to keep the lantern lit because his daughter's soul is in that lantern. And if the lantern goes out, then her soul will perish. And so throughout the course, you discover that the wood that grows in this forest, it's lost souls. They petrify. Well, they don't petrify, they like turn into the trees in the forest. And so after he realizes that, he's like, I'm like burning other souls to keep the soul of my daughter alive. And it's like little ethical moral crisis, and he didn't know what he was doing. And then there's another character that figures out that it's not actually his daughter's soul in that lantern, it's the soul of the beast. And so I don't know if the beast thought it was fun or if the beast couldn't do it himself, but the beast had convinced the man that it was his daughter's soul that was in there. And that's, even when faced with a dilemma, um, then under that mistruth, love would get him to sacrifice others for the one that he cares about the most. And so after that truth was revealed, the man still had to trust that the truth, the actual truth, was the truth. And he had to risk potentially his daughter's soul and letting it go out. I don't know. That is. Oh, y'all see this? You see that? How it's like basically out, but it didn't fall. I'll take them. Okay. So bottom of the deck over here is the world card. The world card speaks to major completions, are the completions of a major period or cycle. I'm holding it like this so y'all can still read it. Also, with the thing about petrified wood, it's like we have a certain view of the world because of everything that we've been made to believe, because of everything that we've experienced, and because of the piece of us that finds comfort in knowing, or at least believing that we know. But with that third eye, it's like there's some truth that kind of changes everything, or at least the way that we perceive the world. So let's get into patience, young one. This was page 18. I will do my best to read this. Patience. This card brings the message that you must be patient and trust divine timing. Humans are anxious creatures. We know what we want and we want it now. Call J.G. Wentworth, right? But we are also working in collaboration with the divine, which means that sometimes we have to wait longer than we would like. Looking to the earth can be helpful when we are working to cultivate patience. We cannot rush the seasons. A tadpole cannot rush its metamorphosis. A tree cannot rush its growth. This card asks you to have faith that your own process is happening in perfect time. So maybe with patience and movement, it takes me back to, and like it said, you can't rush the earth. It was that energy that I left off on yesterday of like your foundation has been changing steadily over time. And maybe in your world, there's been enough happening outside of you that you haven't noticed, or you won't notice until something happens that brings all of that to the limelight. How much things have actually changed, and how much you've actually changed, and how it's just like your foundation isn't what it used to be. It's different. And when your foundation changes, then there are certain things that used to be key and integral for your stability that may no longer be the case. So, the first card that came out for for who was it? Don't tell me. It's also interesting that patience is the card that came out. I know it's petrified wood. I'll just read it. Turtle, 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 turtle. What was that? Master of Disguise? The card that came out is the Four of Swords, who's been featured lately. But in this deck, the Four of Swords has the clock on it, and the last two swords are in the clock. So there are the choices and decisions that you make with the two swords up top, and then the rest is divine timing. And it's like when your swords match that pair of swords, then there's an alarm. It's like it's a time dispense, like a time dispenser. Then it dispenses something. But up here with the bone can symbolize growth and wisdom and the wisdom gained from growth. But it can also be an energy of like how you've adapted to burden. Because if your posture isn't the greatest, and if you carry more than you should with a not that great posture, it starts to affect the way that your body sits. And sometimes it's like bones can bend and even crack or break, fracture. Now that bone is only fractured on the end a little bit. It's like broken at the end, but like right at the clock, right? So, I mean, There's no like cracks or fractures or fissures really on that bone. So that's good. And the swords, although there are a few webs, there aren't too many. Okay, well, it's not as extreme as some other cards are, okay? But there are a lot of threads here, but they don't seem to be unraveling. So there's a slight energy of like faded choices, chance encounters. Does that work? Because a chance encounter is like random, right? But a faded choice is something. There's paradox in this because we got movement and patience already. Patience, right? But it kind of feels true. The intersection of something faded and something random is you being presented with a choice that, for all intents and purposes, you shouldn't make, but you make it, and things change. Things shift massively. I think it's in a good way here. It's like there's something good that comes your way. And for all, like, because of what your past is, because of what you believe, and because of what you're tied to, you shouldn't engage with it, but you did. And because you engaged with it to the degree that you did, it's like it accelerates a lot of things because it's like, hold it. Let me get my little pen. Well, hell, here it is. This is what it's like. I'm so glad I can see now. Let me make sure I put this back so I don't lose it. It's like this. Okay, hold up. Hold up. All right. It's like this. So you're moving from 0 to 1. You're going from 0 to 1. Can you see that? There you go. And you're following that curve. And so you see that dip down there? That line that bridges these two. This is the choice that it's like it was fated to come into your experience. But you weren't necessarily, the odds were not in your favor to make that choice. So you were going to hit that low before you come back up. But since you made that choice, it creates this like shortcut energy. And that's the acceleration because you don't spend all that time down here. And so that's kind of sort of where this like a fated choice and a chance encounter meet. Because now it's like, well, everything that you were going to learn down there, we have to accelerate it and speed it up. So now you may be just coming across information, meeting more people, expanding your network. That's going to get you to the same space, but quicker. It's some weird time thing because you don't necessarily you don't get to the same place in the same time. But it's like there were certain things tied to a destination rather than tied to a number of years that you live or something, right? To prepare you to actually make that choice, but you made the choice without needing all of that extra stuff. Now, there's a little bit of faith, or a lot of bit of faith, or trust that's in there, because that's one of the things that can get us to make choices outside of our programming or everything that we know, right? Yeah, because if you look at the pairs of swords, the right to left diagonal sword, so this one, I'm trying not to lose my page. This sword, no, has to be this sword. Yeah. This sword right here and that sword right there, they're in the same position, right? but your sword here is closer here. And so that's a whole what? How many degrees is it? 360 divided by 12. It's 30. Yeah. So that's a whole like 60 degrees ish. Oh, well, maybe 30. No, that's a whole 60 degrees. 60 degrees is a sextile. It's an opportunity. It's not as favorable as a trine. Like it's not just going to happen by itself. But that's like a short. And I don't know if this is coming up or if this has already happened or if it's happened multiple times. I don't know. But that, I kind of like that energy. I kind of like that energy a lot. But I feel like it comes, it doesn't, like spirit, there's nothing too complicated or complex for spirit to do, right? But girl, mm, Goldie Mitchell just sent me an email. Oh snap. Hold up. Hold up. I'm sorry, y'all. Oh, this is devil energy. Coming up in my email with all this money. After I said I already know what I want to do, and this ain't it. Ooh, but them dollar signs look real good. Hold on. I might have to think about that one because it may not be devil energy. That could be the divine. Like, hey, we got speaking of shortcuts, here's one. I don't know. I have to sit on that. So, turtle. Slow and steady wins the race. And maybe that's another reason why we weren't expected to make the jump. But it's because things slowed down that we were actually able to see something, right? Like if you're running around, you would have missed it. Something that you would have missed. Something that it would have been very, very, very easy to miss or overlook because it shouldn't have been on your radar. But it's like when you get the little spiritual detector, it beep 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 beep. But when you're running too fast, like you don't know where the beep beep beeps were, and so depending on how fast you are, that's a whole lot of area you'll have to cover before. If you're moving faster than the speed of sound, then it could be anywhere. Because by the time you hear that beep, it's already been how much time? But since you were moving slow, it's like, oh snap, hold up, wait, maybe take it as it resonates. Always, always. Turtle. Turtle is a call towards steady determination. Sometimes people who struggle with patience decide to give up on something. Yes. Oh, okay. 1 second, y'all. I'll be right back. Did y'all hear that? I showered this morning. Oh. All right, I'm back. Four of Swords. Four of Swords, the turtle. I'll start from the top. Turtle is a call towards steady determination. Sometimes people who struggle with patience decide to give up on something simply because they are unable to wait for things to come into fruition. There's that fruition word. Any delays discourage them. Something to note about turtles is that their land speed is about 3 to 4 miles per hour, but their speed in water is 10 to 12 miles per hour. This is a reminder that if we are patient and wait for the right time, we will have less resistance and make more progress. The spirit of turtle calls for resolve, grit, and persistence. You can call upon turtle when you need assistance in sustaining consistent effort in your long lasting venture. But turtles naturally know that about themselves, right? And so when the turtle hits the water, they're prepared to move a lot faster than when they're on the land. But with people, it's like sometimes, like if you stop suddenly, you get like whiplash, or if you accelerate suddenly, you get whiplash. And it reminds me this one time, there was this girl on the bus. She was standing up in the middle of the bus, and the bus driver told her to sit down. And she didn't listen to the bus driver, so the bus driver slammed on her brake, and she hit the it was so funny. But if she would have listened to the bus driver, she would have been fine, right? The only reason why she hit the flow was because she didn't sit down when the bus driver told her to sit down, because the bus driver knew that if she didn't sit down, then she was gonna hit that brake. Hey Mimi. The bus driver knew that if she didn't sit down, she was gonna hit that brake. But she didn't tell the girl, if you don't sit down, I'm gonna hit this brake, and then you're gonna wish you would have sat down when I told you to sit down. And you best believe that was the last time she did that. I don't know why this is here. Because so too, like when it's time for us to speed up, then we need to speed up. And so patience and movement, it's not a paradox. It's the cycle. It's seasons. There are going to be times when it's a little slower, times when it's a lot faster. And when you're handling the season, when you're doing what you need to be doing in the season that you should be doing it, it creates this overall accelerated energy. It eliminates resistance. It shortcuts you to where it is that you're going. Okay, turtle, come through. Next is the Five of Wands and the Two of Coins. This is interesting because in the Two of Coins, there are two coins: the coin of the tooth, which is wisdom, and the coin of the crystal, which is abundance. In the Five of Wands, it's in the shape of the pentagram instead of the pentacle. And so it's prioritizing the material over spirit. Whereas it's like the crystal is the closest to the hand and the tooth is the furthest away. So the turtle did just talk about how sometimes if it's not immediate enough, we sort of give up. Well, here's a reflection of that. But I mean, there's a third eye in there. So maybe it's just a super. Oh, and there's thorns all over these ones too. Thorns all over them things. So the threads done turn to thorns. Um, it's just a very materialistic spirituality. Or, you know, it's like, oh, I have faith and I trust and I can do this and I can do that. But if I don't get it in the time I want it, I'm done. I'm on to something else. Sorry. Sometimes it'd be like that though. That's what do they call it? What do they call it? Prosperity gospel. That's what it is, right? I think, or something like that. Let's see if Siri know. Hey Siri, define prosperity gospel.
The definition of the word prosperity gospel is alternative name for word of faith.
Girl, excuse me. Alternative name for word of faith. That came from Wolfram Alpha. Not that they can't do whatever. I'm gonna look this one up though. Because I might not. PROS. I should have just spoke it. PER. All right. Rude. Ex- what is happening? Okay, we're just gonna leave it be because my phone ain't wanting to cooperate. It's all about the money, 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 basically. So How you doing today? Did I ask you that? I don't think I did. How you doing today, Mimi? So, chamomile. Chamomile, ain't that supposed to be relaxing? Two of Pentacles and the Five of Wands. Ooh. When we are met with resistance or delay, it is not uncommon that we experience an increase in anxiety or frustration as we feel we don't have control. Chamomile is a go to tea for before bed because of its sedative effects, but its medicine is good at any time. Chamomile has a calming effect on our nervous system, so it comes in handy if we feel like we are overthinking or stressed. It teaches us to be calm and secure in the process, despite it not being our ideal timing. Call upon the spirit of chamomile when you need support with surrendering to the teachings of patience and divine timing. So it could probably be, oh, snap. It's that season too. Oh, wow. It's still going on. Well, maybe if you find them keys, the headache will stop. So hopefully you find them soon, and hopefully your head starts feeling better. It's your time. It's your season. I talked about painting yesterday, right? Or was that the day before yesterday? That was the day before yesterday. That's when the buffalo and the unicorn came out in reverse. The energy of something that you used to do that like calms you enough to put things in perspective. Because while you're so heavily, like if you're too materially focused, and again, this is that like rushing energy. So when it came to the turtle with the Four of Swords, it's like we were sort of like right there. But when it comes to chamomile, we need its medicine. But yeah, it makes sense. It was the day before yesterday. Okay. It makes sense because um not it makes sense. It's understandable. Because even if like let's say for example this deck of cards originally it told me it would be delivered on Saturday, Friday or Saturday. It didn't make it to the state until Friday or Saturday, and then the date changed to Monday. And I was like, well, even though it says Monday, it was Friday. I was like, even though it says Monday, it could still come Saturday. It didn't. And I kept checking that day. I kept checking too. And it came right as I started playing a game with one of my friends. Um, but it's an energy of anticipation more. Maybe more so anticipation than anxiety. It could be anxiety. But it's like you need to chill. Prioritize what you know over what you see. And in doing that, hopefully you'll find some peace, or maybe you'll find some peace. Oh, snap. Getting into creation mode. Creators. So maybe drink some chamomile tea or chill. Learn to chill a little bit. It'll happen when it happens. It'll come in when it comes in. And it's like the turtle said something about lesser resistance. This energy, it's putting resistance on something before it's time to come in because your timing and its timing aren't necessarily synchronizing. And the more anticipation, anxiety, the more that turns into frustration, the more resistance it creates. And that's what sort of overloads the third eye. That's when your two eyes overload the third eye because the third eye isn't necessarily trained on physical. So Yeah. And one thing in my own personal journey, one thing that I'm starting to experience, and I even wrote it in my little notebook, I think on the 7th, like last year and before, a lot of 2019, it was like, don't be attached to the outcome, don't have any expectations, just be in the moment. But I feel like she brought up the third eye too. I feel like where I am now, it's like it's okay to have expectations and it's okay to be forward thinking. Just don't get lost in it and still allow it to unfold into whatever it's supposed to be. Because then it's like fishing. You throw a frequency out into the future and you hold the line. And whatever bites, bites, right? You won't know what bit until you reel it in. Or if it doesn't feel right, then you let it go. And when you go into things as subtle as that, you have to learn how to differentiate like what is a nibble from what would essentially be like a very small fish and what is the bobber just floating in the water because that's the natural motion of the water. The more subtle you go, the harder it is to sort of differentiate. I don't know. Oh, we saw you yesterday. Oh, we saw both of y'all technically yesterday. The last two cards, it's the Hanged One and the Queen of Cups, the Sovereign of Cups. The Sovereign of Cups is pre High Sage energy. And with the Hanged One there, I don't know if this is us not necessarily trusting our intuition because we did just have the Five of Wands, put that Two of Pentacles. On the other side, this could be if we don't need to learn, like if we know the medicine of chamomile, or if we have the medicine of chamomile already within this to the point where it just naturally kicks in whenever your body needs it, then it could be like spiritually grounded and holding the vision until the material turns the same. Because again, the coin of the tooth is higher than the coin of the crystal. But naturally, like since they're pointed upward, we're dealing with the force of gravity, and the crystal is closer. So if you're earthbound, then it would be material focused. But if you're hanged one free, then it wouldn't be. And then that's what I was talking about. That eye on the physical, it can be, it's similar in that it's outward facing, but it's different in that one is internally grounded versus the other being externally grounded, where you need the external to validate before you can fully hold on the internal, rather than holding the internal until the external begins to validate. And that's something that I started coming into last August, September. I remember I was like, you know what? I'm no longer like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to anchor myself and I'm going to hold this until the world reflects me. I'm not mirroring anybody else anymore. I'm holding the line. And then slowly but surely things begin to shift and change. It's been quite interesting. Anyway, the Hanged One and the Sovereign of Cups when it comes to petrified wood. And in the Sovereign of Cups, we see the pearl inside of the clam. When I was talking about something like, well, it was more so the soul and the lantern. But, no sand, no pearl. A pearl is the clam's defense mechanism. And this one is open and ready to release it. It didn't have to be cracked. Okay. And so this is like what? Is this some kind of like ethical or sustainable pearl farm? where the clams just naturally open and you take the pearl out of the clam and then it'll produce another pearl. This is a pearl, or this is a clam that would have evolved to the influence of a compassionate man, mankind, womankind, people, to compassionate people. And so it just presents it to be taken and then it closes back. And with the hanged one, it's just an energy of something that doesn't currently naturally exist in this world. And the world card is at the bottom of the deck with a bigger third eye on it than what was on the five of wands. So, I mean, like, you know, not that size always matters, but more vision, more perspective. Under that is the seeker of coins with the key that unlocks the earth. I'll show you. Here's the seeker of coins with the sovereign of swords behind it. So there's the queen of swords energy. She's the only sovereign I didn't see yesterday. Here she is behind the seeker of coins. This reminds me of the high priestess, the seeker, and then the ace of pentacles. And I already talked about that when I talked about that. I mean, that's the power of the hanged one. A lot of times we see hanged ones as turtles on the land, when in reality, they're turtles in the sea or in the ocean or in water. They're turtles in water, okay? If you're like, well, seas are salty and turtles are freshwater creatures. Well, what about the ones in the ocean then, huh? Sorry. um, but that's the hanged one. And that is kind of interesting that we view turtles as such slow creatures, but only when they're on the land, right? But y'all remember Crash and whoever from Finding Nemo? Ride in the current. So, petrified wood. Petrified wood is fossilized roots and trunks of ancient trees. It is a stone of steady growth and patience. Petrified wood holds the wisdom of time. It teaches us how to not sweat the small stuff. It is a reminder that divine timing will always be better than our own personal timing, and that we must always trust that. It encourages us to stay the course, but not to push the river as it flows all on its own. Continue to show up to your work, continue to reach toward growth, but do not rush. Call upon petrified wood for ancient knowing in the process of divine timing. The clam will open up when it's ready to release the pearl. You don't have to crack it open and kill it, because then that's the only pearl you're ever going to get from that clam. And then how many clams is it going to take to satisfy humanity's interest in pearls? There aren't enough clams. Good thing they can procreate, because if they couldn't, they'd be gone. Well, maybe they wouldn't. Maybe if clams weren't so abundant, people would stop buying pearls, right? Right? It's not like they would hunt them until they're extinct. Oh, wow. Y'all remember what I said here about how it's like making choices that, for all intents and purposes, we never would have or should have made? The card that came out, it's fate, but it's in reverse. This to me, it's an energy of like defying fate. Like I said, like we're like a lot of things have been accelerated because our fated path, we were supposed to, or we had the opportunity to acquire so much. This is the power of choice. This is the power of choice standing in a divine sovereignty. That is crazy. And this deck is all upright, of course. It just happened to fall out in reverse. What did Alphaba say in Defying Gravity? I'm gonna listen to Defying Gravity. What? I don't know what you're talking about. He was eating baby clams. Oh my gosh. Ooh, that's almost some ants energy, but in ants, the grasshoppers wasn't eating ants. Fate in reverse. Ooh. I like that. I like that. I'm a fan. Yeah, this is ether. I knew it would be ether. I mean, fate is in reverse, but the world is still upright. I think it's carrying an energy of it's like paths that we're already on. And that's what I was talking about. It's like because of everything that's happened, like you shouldn't have been able to make this choice. And if we look at this on a more collective level, that's us avoiding a major dip because of a choice that we've made to reroute things. And because the line is where it is, I mean, it's a straight line, so it's going to be fairly steady. It may feel like a lot of time is passing with nothing happening, but that line is much, much higher than that dip. And that's going to be the lowest point. Then it's gonna shoot back up. And then it's gonna peter out a little bit and then it's gonna shoot up again. Okay. Okay. Walrus and the Carpenter. I have never heard of that. Is that a kid's show? Hopefully not. It's like, oh my gosh. Kids out there afraid of walruses. Or kids out there that don't like walruses because they eat the clams. Fate. Oh wow. Oh well, here's another message. So this card is a reminder that you create your fate. While some lessons and experiences are inescapable, we have free will and choice within the life we are given. This does not always equal fairness, as we do not all start life from the same footing. Nonetheless, each choice we make matters. From this place, we can approach the creation of our life in an empowered way. This deck was inspired by the Norns. Three mythical, there's the Norns again. They're the Norns again. They're the Norns. Oh gosh. This deck was inspired by the Norns, three mythical figures that rule the destiny of humans within Norse mythology. The name Norn derives from a word meaning to twine, referring to how they weave the threads of fate. Fate is seen as a malleable thing with some fixed aspects. This card's partner is the Weaver. The Weaver asks you to tend to the threads. This card, however, asks you to get clear, on the fate you are weaving. This card asks you to get clear on the fate you are weaving. This card is big picture and all about vision. What are you working towards? What are you saying no to? When we say no, we are saying no to all the experiences that would unfold in the aftermath. Both the yes and the no is powerful when we are creating our reality. And again, like I literally like this, it mentioned vision. Well, the third eye on the world card is bigger than the third eye in the five of wands. And there's like a four of wands energy here because of the four, like the four of wands in this deck, it has this same shape outside, but they're wands instead of laurel wreaths. So in this card, they've all blossomed into what leads us to victory. But like, I don't want to say any hanged one worth their salt knows that, but the hanged one with the Sovereign of Cups, hanged man with high priestess energy would know. So then, like I said, this energy, instead of being one that's lost in needing the external world to validate what it is that you believe or creating beliefs based on the external world, effectively locking yourself into a trajectory that you may not even necessarily want to be in. Like if you're the type of person who's like, well, I keep losing it, I keep losing it. I don't have to use my surface anymore to draw because bye bye cataracts. I get to write again. I'm so excited. Writing, I just love the act of writing. Like if you're the type of person that sees the natural ebb and flow, but you're also a spiritual person, but you're like uh this kind of spiritual person that's all about your experience and how things are going and how things have gone. Like if you're, I don't want to say if you're following transits from like 1,000 years ago and you're continuing to manifest a cycle from hundreds of years ago, while at the same time you're manifesting like 5D and something like, I don't know how compatible those energies are. Like how you trying to manifest something new but following something from hundreds of years ago. I don't know. Anyway, WandaVision. Oh my gosh. Like my friend just asked me, what was that, yesterday? He just asked me yesterday. He was talking about WandaVision. I found out my mama is a Marvel head, y'all. I thought she was watching all these Marvel movies because she bought into the hype. Because I went in her room and she was watching WandaVision. Um, and I was like, "Oh, I forgot you a Marvel head." And she was like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "Yeah, you watched like all these Marvel movies." And she was like, "I was watching Marvel even when I was a kid, like the Incredible Hulk and all that." I was like, "No, no, what do you mean? What do you mean?" I'm not a huge fan of superheroes or comic books. I never have been. It's never been my thing. Personally, I know a lot of people are into it. I'm not saying anything. I'm just not into it. But because I wear glasses and some people see me as smart, they're like, "Oh, you like Star Wars. You like Battlestar Galactica. You like Star Trek. You like Marvel, Batman, Superman. Who's your favorite superhero?" I don't have one. I don't. I don't. It was never my thing. Now, if we're talking about anime, that's different. If we're talking about anime, then I'm very much so into superheroes. But that's like ninjas and magic and stuff like that. Anyway, anyway. Well, maybe 1,000 was an over exaggeration, but there have been like 500-year-old transits. It's like we haven't seen this transit since like 15 something, 14 something. I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, they say that those who don't learn from their past are doomed to repeat it, but maybe let's do the learning part from the past and not the doomed to repeat it part. But it's like there will be some like that smaller third eye energy will see this, but because it's spiritual, it would know the step ahead, right? And so, but it's stepping ahead down into the pit rather than stepping across this bridge. And it speaks, it's just alignment and what you're aligning to. You know, personally in my own life, I decided, like I said, that the world will reflect me. I will not be a reflection of this world because I want better and I'll hold on to it. And they do say that one person, I mean, the whole world is basically the Hierophant. So, you know, anyway, You don't like Star Wars or Star Trek? I wouldn't say I. Well, I would say I'm not a huge fan. The only Star Wars I liked was Clone Wars because it was animated and Ahsoka was cool. And then I found out that like when dude go evil, he killed Ahsoka, and I was like, yeah, so I'm never watching Star Wars. They killed Ahsoka. They killed the only character I would have cared about. That happened in another show. I did not care for the show for 3 episodes. On the third episode, I met a character that I absolutely loved, and she held my interest until I got attached to the rest of the characters. But she just died, so they kept her around long enough for me to care about some other people. Ooh, I ain't gonna say who it was because I don't want to spoil it. And that just happened last week or the week before last. Can't get into them here. Me neither. That's what I got though. And I love that this is the threads of fate. We have more choice than we think. And it's like, just as we can choose to not take a growth opportunity, just like we can refuse to not take a blessing or a change in fortune, we can refuse disaster. But in refusing it, it's like, in some ways, you have to be able to exhibit what it is that you would have gotten from going through it. And if you can't do that, you might have to go through it. So that's why I try to get the most of each experience. One of the reasons why I try, because it's like, I ain't got time for this. I'm trying to move on to better days. I've heard that song at like the last 2 funerals I went to. Better days. Better days are coming. And then the movement card is at the bottom of the deck. So if patience is your fate, you can turn it on its head. Get into the water. Dive into the water. Get off of the land and into the water. That's I'm titling this right now because I'm gonna forget. Get off of the land and into the water. Turtles. There's nothing better. Turtles. Watch out for Shredder. Turtles. They're like no other. These Teenage Mutant Brothers. 1, 2, 3, 4. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I promise, so little songs from my childhood just pop into my head at random times. But I remember in one of those movies, one of those Ninja Turtles movies, it was all right, like the first time and the second time. But sometimes my brothers they play stuff out, and I'm not a huge fan of Ninja Turtles either. Um, but there was one part I think it had to be Michelangelo. He was doing like a Splinter impersonation or something, and he was like, "You dirty rat." No, it wasn't. Was it Shredder? No, no, it couldn't have been Shredder or Splinter. But Michelangelo was just like, "You dirty rat, you killed my brother." And then April was like, "Oh, Splinter must love that one." And they was like, and she was like, "It was a joke." And they were like, "Oh," because Splinter is a rat. Anyway, I don't know. Yeah, that's what I'd just be like. You know what? Let me think ahead. Let me think ahead. Get out the gingerbread and make sweet treats for him to eat. Milk and cookies. That popped into my head the other day too. I was like, I don't know why milk and cookies is in my head right now, but Santa Claus is spoken for, ladies, and he's responsible for bringing everybody presents. So let's leave that one intact, please, because we don't want the whole world to go without Christmas just because you know real big stockings. Oh, this is a lot. This is a lot, and they all came out okay. Ooh. Okay. Well, I love these first two. These last two. Mm. Well, the first one is Dare to Dream. Even when the world would do all that it can to crush it, even when things seem like they're going in a certain direction, dare to dream. And after dare to dream is that third eye with wings, higher perspective. Dare to dream into higher perspective. I love that energy. Dare to dream into higher perspective into ask body. I think ask body after dare to dream in higher perspective. This is like asking, I don't want to say asking, but I guess we don't demand anything from anything. So it is asking in that sense. This is asking the physical to mirror and reflect what it is that you've dared to dream, that you've taken a higher perspective towards. And that higher perspective in dare to dream energy, it gets you to see things that you would otherwise have to experience a large amount or some amount of contrast to experience. It's like that energy of like, you don't know how strong you are until you have to be. So just be strong. If you can just be strong, then life won't have to make you strong or won't have to, excuse me, put you in a position to prove to yourself how strong you are. Just be strong. You don't have to experience hardship to get the lesson. And then the last card is ancestors. And I feel like ancestors, there's all those roots in the ground again. I feel like this is that energy of like, we've played enough cycles, we've done enough time, we've been on this ride long enough. Like, we can get off now. And like, that's one of the reasons why, like, if somebody asks me, like, if I'm into astrology, I'd say no, because astrology is, it's a science, and it's a science based upon history. Like, that's the only context, or that's most of the context that astrologically we have for when a transit occurs. It's, well, last time we had this transit, this is what was happening, and the time before that, this was happening, and the time before that, this was happening, and the time before that, this is happening. Ergo, therefore, also too, we can assume logically that next time we have that transit, it will happen again. But at some point, it's like it's time for us to get off of the wheel. And like, there are many sides, there are many aspects to many things. We don't need to lock ourselves into just one of them. So, okay. Secret of the Ooze. I don't think it had to be Secret of the Ooze because I don't think they time traveled in that one. Yeah, higher perspective. I mean, if you want to ascend, then higher perspective. I'm assuming higher perspective would be helpful in ascending to elevate beyond the repetition of the cycles that you are in. It's like a bridge between seasons. Okay. What's it? Final message, final card from the tarot side. Big one, small, 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 small. What is this? Who that? That's the Sovereign of Coins and the Magi? The Sovereign of Coins and the Ruler of Cups. Oh my gosh! I talked about this. I talked about this yesterday. I was like, I would either be like a King of Cups or a Queen of Pentacles because they can both be nurturing, but like the Queen of Cups is can be overly nurturing, overly giving to the point where it depletes her. And the King of Pentacles, while still nurturing, can be a little bit more physically oriented. Like, I'm providing these physical things for you. But it's like King of Cups, Queen of Pentacles, for me, sit closer in that, like, physically and emotionally nurturing and caring and supporting. And they both came out here. Ruler of Cups, Sovereign of Coins. Third eye on that crown. That's funny because I was just looking at this and how there's a third eye looking up at the crescent with the rose. And I know like this is the higher perspectives card because I just saw it. I haven't seen this card yet, but I was looking at that. And then on this one, on their two crowns, one has the rose and the other has the third eye. The sovereign of coins has the rose on her crown. The ruler of cups has the third eye on his. And his third eye is above the star. So that's not just making, like, I don't want to say empty wishes, but it's vision beyond the stars. I think sometimes we see a shooting star, we wish for something that, like the energy of the star in and of itself, typically it's something that we can't get ourselves. And so, more often than not, the star comes in to substitute or to take the place of something that we want, something that we don't have. But this is seeing beyond the things that we don't have. It's because again, the things that we don't have, it's related to it's physical, it's earthly, typically. Not always, but it can take that energy. And then here's the coin that has that rose in it. This is a currency of love, and it's an exchange of love. And it's that exchange of love that gives her the dominion over the physical element that she has. And it's his spiritual understanding that it's like he would, it's like she would be the diplomat, but he would be the one that arranges the meetings, right? Because she has the hospitality and he maybe is a little cold sometimes. Bottom of the deck is the ruler of coins. Ooh, there's a full moon in this ruler of coins card. Or is it a new moon? It's probably, it looked kind of full. It looked kind of full. We coming up on the new moon here pretty soon though. Excuse me. So this is going to be new moon Aquarius. Let's see. Let's see where the last full moon in Aquarius was. That would have been in Leo season. Full moons are happening earlier in the season. Was that on the Lionsgate? Oh snap! Hold up, wait. Let's go to 8-8. I think the full moon happened somewhere around the Lionsgate. 2019, 2020, please. That's, oh no, the moon was in Aries. Oh come on. Right? Or was it around the 15th? Maybe it was around the time Uranus went retrograde. I think Uranus retrograded in August. One second. So Uranus stationed retrograde on August 15th. The full moon was, no, that's the new moon. That's the end of Leo. Leo season started in July. What am I doing? Hello? Oop, oop, oop. Sorry. So the full moon was August 3rd. The full moon was on August 3rd, so like 5 days before, 5 days before the 8-8 Lionsgate. So somewhere around that time. And now we're coming into the new moon, which in this context would mean that something from that time is ending and it's the culmination of something new. So between, because it's like, I guess it's new, full new. I don't know anything about the proper way to look at the moon, so I'm not into that either. I take it how it comes to me when it comes to me and the way it comes to me. But it's like there's this period of time from August 3rd until this new moon in Aquarius, where there's been an opportunity to claim something. Something's been dispensing over this time. It's emptying. And when the new moon hits, it's going to begin to feel to pour out the next thing. So before that Lion's Gate, whatever you were, I guess, working for in the previous new moon in Aquarius reached its culmination at that full moon. And that is actually what's happening. I don't want to say it's actually what's happening because I just told y'all I don't follow the moon like that. But that's what it feels like. But and that's why I say to like always be in the energy and don't wait for a portal or wait for a conjunction to happen to try to do something because it's like when you're holding the door for people and someone is quite a ways away, you could be nice and hold the door for them until they get there, or you could move on. You're not obligated to hold the door for everyone in the store. You hold the door for those who are there in the more immediate vicinity and they pass through while it's open. If you're too far away, I don't want to say you might miss it, but it's like we don't know how life is going to play out. It's like procrastinating that assignment, but the assignment is more difficult than you think, or it has extra parts that you weren't aware of. And it's like when you're on it, when you stay on it, you're in the moment that you need to be in. So for myself, I'm curious where what day Chinese lunar. Oh, I can just ask Siri. Hey Siri, what day was Chinese Lunar New Year 2020?
Chinese Lunar New Year was on Saturday, January 25th, 2020.
Oop, it was in January last year. Yeah, because we had the new moons early in the zodiac cycle instead of the new moons happening later because it flipped eventually. So from January 25, 2020, January 25, 2020, things was crazy. Things were crazy. They were crazy. I remember because that was a point in time when it was like, did spirit just go quiet? Like, what is happening? And that's also about the time a lot of people started getting off of reading and stuff like that. So from January 24, 25, 2020, that would have been pouring out as we're gearing up for a new cycle. But if you go full new, then I guess whatever you were, no, because it fills up on the new moon. Some, honestly, for me personally, some stuff seems, I know it's like supposed to be counterintuitive, but sometimes it seems a little too counterintuitive. I don't know. That's long story short. I don't know. If you want to know moon stuff, go to a moon person. One, two, three, four, five. Ha. On the clock. One, two, three, four, five. But that's what I got. I hope you have a good whatever whenever you see this. I hope you're acting in alignment to make that what you wish to experience your reality. Because if you ain't, who gonna do it? Um, and I hope that you found something in here somewhere that will help you to really begin to step into a creator functionality. It's like going outside and gathering your own pigments rather than going to the store and buying Crayola. Because you can be a creator all you want, but if you don't supply your own pigments, you're using someone else's colors and you're limited in what they provide for you. And you don't have to be. It requires some exploration, maybe a little bit of knowledge because you don't know what will hold a pigment or what's pigmented enough to show up on paper until you do it. So don't be afraid of a little exploration. Don't be afraid of the dark. That's where all discoveries are made, right? Because everything in the light is already in the light. So how are you gonna get anything new there? I don't know. All right, I'll catch you later. Bye.